Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Living a Graceful Life. My name is Tracy Gelb, and I'm your host this evening. And we're going to be talking about um, holding ourselves accountable to uh, different choices that we make and different decisions that we make, but also holding ourselves accountable to basically making commitments to do things that are going to keep us well and keep us healthy. Um, for the rest of our lives. And it started out with a wonderful support group that we have in South Florida. And it's started as a cancer support group, but then turned into a wellness support group. And we had a wonderful lady there this Saturday, and she started talking about how she quit smoking. It was very interesting. She went, she'd been smoking for, I think she said 40 years since she was 11 and used to get her father's cigarettes without him knowing. And she went every day into the bathroom and would say to the mirror, I am going to quit smoking on January 1st. I'm going to quit smoking on January 1st every day. Then she would stop people in the hallway, in the elevator, and say, listen, I'm going to stop smoking January 1st. I will stop smoking. And they would say, oh, that's fantastic. Good luck. And she did. And that was over 20 years ago. I think it was like 27 years ago. Never smoked again. And I thought it was very interesting because it's amazing the power of accountability and the power of telling oneself, listen, I'm not doing this anymore, but continuing to tell ourselves, continuing daily, reaffirming it. Like just an example, when I was doing my juice cleanse, I did a 13 and a half day juice cleanse just recently, about 2 months ago. And I put it on Facebook. I'm not a big Facebook person, but I did put it on Facebook as an accountability. Not every day, but I would put a picture of my shake and talk about how it was feeling. I made a commitment to myself to start doing cold plunges, which I did for 30 days straight. Now I'm taking the cold showers again and going to work my way back to the plunges. These are accountability. I talk about them on the show and I talk about them to friends of mine, to students of mine, so that I can be held accountable. And I think that's why sometimes it's really good and important to have a buddy system. I started my original um, I call it a kind of pseudo keto because I never was doing all meat and cheese, but just no carbs and sugars. And I started it with my lifelong friend. And we would call each other up to be held accountable. What did you eat today? Hope you didn't have sugar. Hope you didn't have carbs. And I think that um, another thing that happened is recently Easter holiday was it was Easter holiday. We don't celebrate that, so we celebrate every day, but no, not that particular holiday. And I follow a gentleman named Ocean Robbins. It's a very long story, and if you get a chance to look him up, his father was Baskin and Robbins. If you like ice cream, then you will know who that is, even if you don't like ice cream. He went against the grain and went on a health and wellness and plant-based and all that good, yummy stuff. He chose to do that. So they put out a thing called Food Revolution recently, and they had a documentary. And I wrote it down actually because it was um, the Food to Freedom. It was Finding Food to Freedom. And it was a documentary. So I watched it with my mom. We watched it on my phone, and it was amazing. The results, they went all plant-based for 10 days, and the results were incredible, absolutely incredible. Now, had my share, unfortunately, of substance abuses, so I know from personal experience that 10 days is a drop in the water, it's a drop in the bucket. They say it takes 21 days to break a habit. I think it takes 90 days, 60 to 90 to really change those pathways and really get it in there and cement it in there. And I think that they had some great results, and then they had some people that went back to their former behavior, not as badly, but going back. And all the people they did a group study had diabetes, which is very serious. And it's basically an epidemic in the United States. It's just people are getting it. And they spoke a lot about how different the pandemic would have been because so many people had pre-existing conditions, they weren't well, and how different it would have been, if we had been well. And this is why it's so important to learn, and to listen and to open our ears and to listen to these important things. I fill my brain every day as much as I possibly can with different forms of wellness so that I can learn, so that I can right the wrongs of my history. I have been in that fast junk food paradigm. I've lived it. I've lived on pizzas and restaurant food and all of that. And I don't want to ever do that again. I'm not going to ever do that again. We have to be, I have to be careful with my words. I'm never going to do that again. So when my mom and I saw this beautiful documentary, and it's free for, a certain period of time, and then you can buy it for $7, which is amazing. Um, we decided to go plant-based starting today for 10 days. We are basically we're pretty plant-based. We eat meat maybe once every 2 weeks. We do have an egg here and there, but as far as the meat is concerned, we both don't eat chicken anymore. So it's basically we'll get like a grass-fed steak once every 2 weeks, and a very occasional, something else. So I'll, go out with friends for some seafood, but we also know that the restaurant food is not the healthiest version of it. So it's better to get seafood to get it yourself and everything. So we've decided to do that, and I'm doing my accountability check, and I've also told my classes today that I was doing that. So that way I can be held accountable. Be held accountable. So many times in life, things happen and we don't take account. I should say, I don't take accountability. I was thinking about it. I've been having a little bit of a renewed trauma. I have some issues with my teeth due to the fact that I was bulimic for close to 15 years. I'm very grateful and blessed to have teeth, but it does take its toll on your teeth. And for all those years that I neglected them, when I was in, active substance abuse, I didn't follow up with treatment. So now for the last 5 years, I've been doing the slow road to, fixing my teeth, and I have some steps to go. But when I go to the dentist, it turns out to be traumatic, and it turns out to be anxiety provoking, and it brings up a lot of things. But what I'm trying to do, and I thought about it today. I have a very, very great friend who works for a dentist, and we had a long conversation. And no matter what happened in my past, the choices that I made, including the bulimia, were my choices. I didn't go and get help. I didn't even look for help. I ended up quitting on my own, and I'm so blessed and grateful that I did that. But I made those choices, you know, throughout those years. So what's happening now is I am being held accountable. I'm going to the dentist. I'm not just letting it go. As much as I don't love going, I'm trying to turn it around, and I am turning it around and saying I'm grateful that I'm able to go. I'm grateful that I can afford, even if it's on a credit card, to right the wrong. To right the, I don't even want to say wrong, to just change the trajectory of what happened. I'm grateful that I'm in a place of sobriety and wellness for almost 2.5 years, that I can make those choices, and I'm able to have a credit card that's not spent on gambling or spent on, something else. So I am taking a responsibility and accountability, and for me, it's wonderful to be able to do it with my best friend Michelle, or with my mom, things are that are important, like the plant-based, because I really want to veer that way the more that I'm researching it. And I've spoken on the show before about Dr. Price, an African American gentleman who's a doctor who wrote the book about vegetation instead of medication, and talking about the different things that happen in societies. Like what happens is people, and they spoke about this on the documentary, will say, oh, well, it's a genetic predisposition. They're learning now with epigenetics and different things that genetics are like something like 3%. The rest is lifestyle choices. Because a family member or 5 family members have a certain thing, they all tended to maybe do the same behavior. And I'm understanding that more and more. My sister and I both had not good eating habits. There was no genetic predisposition. There was none of that. It was choices that we made, not good choices. So I want to be held accountable. I need to do that. I need to do that for myself and to help others. I think the best opportunity to help others is for them to notice that you're changing in different ways, and to think, well, this would be something that would be, like I had some people in my class today. I sent the video to a lot of people, and they were, a bunch of them came up to me and had watched the video. I was so happy. And one of them said she's going to order, it's like a program that you can continue, an immersion program where you do the plant-based through the Ocean Robbins, the Freedom for Food program. But I had others that were so excited and enlightened. And we get this beautiful gift. We get it from God. We get this body, and we are accountable for the choices that we make. We can, prayer is beautiful. I love to pray, but we can only pray so much, that for God's help, we have to put the work in. I have to put the work in. And I realize that, I mean, I've tried everything, every diet you can think of, every and I used to tell my mom that Survivor, this show that I love, they go on on an island and they don't eat for 39 days and they all lose 40 pounds. And I would say to her, it's a no-brainer. They don't eat and they lose weight. People get the gastric bypass or now do some shots. I don't choose to go that route. It's not something that I'm comfortable with, but I do realize the premise of it's lessening appetite. I have had a struggle with my weight. I am working through it, and I've lost weight and I'm feeling great, but it's an ongoing process, and it's a process of accountability. And I I get the blessing of having a show to help me. I have a blessing of having a mom to help me, and wonderful friends and students who are my friends and have become friends through everything. I have the blessing of teaching Ageless Grace. So not only do I get to help my body heal and my heart, my soul, and my brain, but I do get to really focus on the brain. And that's what this is all about, is changing the brain. Holding ourselves accountable and responsible is, it's a wonderful, beautiful thing. And I don't know if I would have gotten through the 13 and a half day cleanse if I hadn't told so many people. And I wasn't trying to brag. I wasn't trying to anything like that. I just was so excited and proud of myself by day 5. And I had 2 juices a day. It was just that, 2 juices that I put in a blender and juiced vegetables, and some, a little bit of ginger and garlic and some protein powder. But I did that for 13 and a half days. And I really was proud of myself. When I did the 30 days in the cold plunge, I made a commitment to myself, and I as well as having other people to have my to be to honor them, but I'm honoring myself by doing these things. And this journey in life has been, it's a roller coaster. I think, all of us know that, but I think that coming out on the other side, and I feel that, there have been some struggles for me recently. It's a time of the year where it was my sister's birthday. We have her anniversary coming up in a few weeks of her passing, and then Mother's Day. So I kind of feel like it's like a boom, 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 of a lot of pain and grief, and different feelings. And I think that anybody and most people in the world have lost somebody. Unfortunately, that's just how life goes. The only thing we can be sure of, and taxes. And but it'll hit you at the weirdest times, and the grief it'll annihilate us. It'll really, for me, it just, sometimes they call it an ambush. I've learned a lot of terms from therapy and grief share, and it really is an ambush, and it's ambushed me recently more than I expected, because it is almost 7 years. But it's a drop in the ocean. It's really, when you love somebody that much, and we did, and we do, it really has, it takes its toll on our mental wellness, and our I feel very resilient because of everything that's happened. But sometimes, it'll bring me back to the sadness of the loss, and of not having her to bounce things off. I mean, we tried, I'm going to say 100 diets together. We didn't even know what kind of food to get. We would even include like processed ham and cheese and bagels. At one point, we did a bagel diet, and we tried everything. I mean, we just tried everything. And I think at that point in our mentality, we weren't, my mom has been in wellness and nutrition for many years, but I think at that time we weren't ready to listen. And sometimes it's hard to listen to a family member, or a spouse, or a child, or a parent, or a sibling, or a cousin. And I went out kind of on my own journey when it came at the beginning of, after her passing, and recently started definitely listening to my mom more because she certainly does know what she's talking about. But I also, sometimes we have to open our mind to things that are unfamiliar and maybe even uncomfortable. And that's what I've done. I've opened my mind and my heart to different modalities of healing. If you had told me 7.5 years ago I would be juice cleansing and cold plunging and using a Healy vibration machine for wellness and taking little pellets and doing different things, but I'm really open to everything because the behavior that I had before didn't serve me. It didn't get me where I needed to go. My behavior now is serving me, and it's making me, it's healing me, and it's healing my brain, and it's healing my heart and my stomach and all my organs. And I've been researching a lot about mental wellness, grief and healing, and people, I didn't understand, I shouldn't say people, how much our food and our gut microbiome affect our mood. You know how sometimes people will say that they're hangry, like angry with an H, they're hungry and angry. And I can tell you that when I was on the juice cleanse, I would get a little hangry. It was like I was pissed off, angry that I couldn't eat. I thought that I couldn't, I chose not to. Um, at that point in time, I wanted to do something a little bit drastic, which is what I did. And I also, a friend of mine and my mom's, and that helps her with some work sometimes, was saying that the years, sometimes when you do a cleanse for 10 days or 14 or 30, sometimes the day, like say, for example, day 6 or day 8 or day 10, you get a certain feeling or just a certain anxiety or pressure. And that's what happened to me day 9 and 10. And she correlates it with years in your life, year 9, year 10, which was very interesting because year 9 and 10 were when my folks got divorced and I got the step parents and all the changes happened. We had moved here from South Africa the year prior and all these huge changes. And I went through a lot of trauma. So those particular days, 9 and 10, and I'm surprised and thrilled that I made it through them because I didn't know if I would. I was beyond hangry. I was just not in a great place. But I think going through all of these different modalities of healing, I think is I'm looking for, when, I always talk about being holistic, but being holistic, I'm looking for the whole, you know, the whole shebang, the whole enchilada, or I'm not going to be eating enchiladas, but I think that, I wrote a couple things down because I like to, one of the things about, oh, I wrote down a quote, which I thought was interesting right at the beginning. And it says, the secret to your future is hidden in your daily routine. And it's Mike Murdock. I know we need to change many things to activate and help the brain. But I think when you think about the secret to your future, when we find good habits and good, good positive ways of doing things, we end up making those life choices. And that's something now with the doing the plant-based with my mom for the 10 days. I'm researching so much about plant-based and the wonderful nutritional value of it, the emotional value of it, also the humanity value of it, because the one of the reasons, and I don't want to make anyone sad, that I stopped eating chicken is we have two little birds, and I call them my little chickens. And I just didn't feel right anymore eating chicken and saying I had two little chickens, and I also am feeling a different way about, I love animals so much. And all of these things are happening kind of like in a way. I had a very, very good friend in my past that was vegan, and she would talk to me. She would go to rallies in the honor of the animals and the cruelty and all of that. So I think watching the show on Netflix, You Are What You Eat, thinking of things, meeting new friends that are, that don't eat meat, having people in my life that learning, being conscious, being mindful, being aware. And I'm not saying that I'm never going to go to a restaurant and order some meat, but I'm certainly going to be doing it less and less. My mom and I made a schedule for the 10 days. We're going to have portobello mushrooms made into like the shape of a burger. We're going to have salads. We're going to have berries. We're going to have fruit. We're going to have seeds. We're going to have nuts. We're going to have lots of vegetables. And we're going to nourish our body with the things that are not made by man. And I think that that's something, the holding accountability is I went and had coffee with my friend today. I was gonna send her the video, funnily enough, but her husband doesn't eat meat, and I thought I didn't want to like, push the envelope, but so I didn't send it. But I told her about it, and she said, "Oh no, send it to me," because she says, it's always so good to learn. And I got the best feedback today when I heard one of my ladies say that they were going to go ahead and go in that direction, because it is, in order for us to heal in our ways in life, we have to be held accountable. We have to hold ourselves accountable so that we can continue to learn and to grow and be open when we hear something, instead of just automatic, well, I don't do that. I don't, nope, I'm not doing that. That's not for me now. I'm like, oh, that sounds interesting. I could do a little spinach and kale salad, as opposed to eating, which I love anyway, but I think I don't need the bacon bits in it. I don't need to throw I don't, and I think it's a wonderful, my mom and I doing this together, because we are going to be accountable. We had to go through the process of, well, we can't really have chocolate, as going through the plant-based, or we're going to investigate that, of course. And so I just want to say, holding ourselves accountable to whatever it is that we choose to to go through with the on the journey that we're on, whatever it is that you would like to change, or that I would like to change. I have a little thing that I wrote down for myself, and I have it, and I keep it now. I took it down to do the show, but I keep it right behind me, right under my vision board, and it says, I can do anything. And I read it so that I know that I can do anything. Anything. Every one of us can do anything. Anything. We just have to want it, and we have to put our mind to it. The mind, the brain is so powerful. And I think that all of the things, that the challenges that I faced, I want to look at them as opportunities. Some of them were not really, really rough times, but I look at it now as opportunities. Everything that's happened to me, and this is what my friend and I were talking about today, all of the things that happen to us in our lives bring us to where we are now, give us the empathy and the kindness and the sympathy and the understanding. I wouldn't be able to feel things the way I do if I hadn't had the past that I've had. So as much of as sometimes as hard as it was, it's blessed me now, for me being able to understand when I meet somebody and they're going through something. I really feel it. I really want to help them with everything I have. So maybe those things that happened have brought me to where I am now, and I'm able to help along the way. And so, talking of helping, I do love Ageless Grace. I love Ageless Grace. I talk about Ageless Grace as much as I can, whenever I can. And I'm so blessed to have recently become a trainer. So I'm going to be able to train people, as well as just not teaching, to train them to teach other people everywhere. And Ageless Grace is the only program in the world that activates all 5 functions of our brain. And I do some Zoom classes, so that's something that people can check out. You can go to my email, which is my name, Tracy Gelb, TracyGelb at Hotmail, and try a complimentary class and see if you like it. And I think you will. And I'm going to do a little dance party with you. Dance party, there's 21 tools, and all of them activate all 5 functions of our brain. So we're going to dance, and we're going to celebrate a little bit. And I thought this song was appropriate, because every single day and every decision that we make, we are given a chance to love our life. And that's why it's called I Love My Life. Let's do a little dancing. So you guys got to dance with me. You got to say, I love my life. I love my life. And the good thing with Ageless Grace is we do it backwards. Since it activates the brain, we do it backwards. We're going to do a little thumbs up, a little hiker. We're dancing. Put your dancing shoes on. Maybe kick your shoes off. Go barefoot. How about the monkey? It says, me love my life. It's a little reggae. Me love my life. Bop it. You can do a little feet. You can't see my feet, but they're bopping around. They're moving. me love my life. Something I like to do is the maniac. We go, do, 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 do. It says, don't, the words say, don't get stressed, don't bring up that blood pressure. Hand jive. How about a little twist, a little snappy twist? 1 foot forward, please. We're dancing, we're dancing. Other foot forward, keep on dancing, keep on twisting. Think of some dance moves. You can do your own dance moves. Let's do a little disco. Little disco, disco, disco. How about a little Bollywood? Get your toes up while you do this. Bollywood. And one that I like to do the staying alive. Staying alive. Switch sides. All right, that's just a little bit of an ageless grace. It says, I love my life. And I'm all about positive affirmations and all about, feeling good. And there's days, just everybody's human. We're all human beings. So we're going to wake up and some days are going to be better than others. But every day when we wake up, I've done a lot of thinking and a lot of praying in these last few years. And my mom and I say gratitude every day to each other. And I think that, and I know there's actually been studies done on it, that if you feel gratitude, you can't feel harm and hurt and sadness in the same space as gratitude. So if we coat ourselves with gratitude and just think about, even if somebody, maybe even a class acts a little strange or does something, we just turn it around because somebody else came up and said how much fun they had and how they loved it and how great they feel. And it's just important. And I mean, so, everybody, like I said, everybody's human. I have days that are more challenging than others, but they're definitely getting better. And I'm holding myself accountable for many, many, many things. Now is the plant-based 10 days, but many other things in my life. I want to be a better daughter. I want to be a better friend. Eventually a better, girlfriend or wife. I don't want to say eventually, soon. And a better teacher and a better listener. I think that one of the things, another thing that we recently watched, my mom and I, was on a beautiful program called Gaia, Gaia, and I highly recommend everybody to look it up. And they had an immersion conference for 14 days. And I listened to some beautiful speakers, and one of them spoke about how important it is to listen. And I find myself a lot of times not listening. I kind of switch off. I'm not really sure where that comes from. It might be something from the past, but I'm trying really hard now to listen to my mom, to listen to my friends, and really listen to them and my students and people just in general, so that they feel heard, and I get to know what's going on with them. That is something that I'm working on, and that's part of being accountable. Like just saying one thing like that. If that's the one thing that I took from the immersion conference, and trust me, I took many, 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 and the same with this recent documentary. I can't say enough how much I recommend turning on a Wayne Dyer video or anything that you find, an Ocean Robbins or Oprah Winfrey or any mentor that you have or somebody that you like to listen to, and just listen, or just Google anything to do with healing and gratitude. And there's so many things that come up, and it's the best way to spend the day instead of listening to sometimes the news is a little sad. This is a good way to uplift ourselves. And I make a choice, and I choose every day to listen to things. Even as I'm falling asleep now, I put on very, very positive meditation, guided meditation. I'll make sure, of certain ones that I love to listen to. And that's another recommendation that I do. And I'm saying personally for me, that is life changing. I love it. And I'm so grateful. I'm grateful. I'm being held accountable. I will continue on the journey of wellness and continue talking about this new venture of plant-based. And I wish everybody a wonderful, happy, and healthy evening.